Okay, Il Passatore. Why? For me, it's the most beautiful ultramarathon and the best ultramarathon in the world. I first heard about Il Passatore from Don Ritchie, who's Scottish, the best British ultra runner of all time, but a Scottish man who just dominated for a long time in 100K. And when I got into running in 2010, very quickly I was kind of just obsessed and engulfed myself with all the reading and all the history of ultramarathon running, and came across his book, read The Stubborn Scotsman, which I highly recommend. And there's 2-3 chapters in there where he's kind of going back, and forth to the World Championships and then to a Passatore to try and beat the best runners at the time, which were Domingo Catalan and Vito Mellino, and the greats in our sport, And when he documented his journeys to Passatore, he would go by train from his small village in Scotland to Edinburgh. He is loved, by the way, in Italy. To Edinburgh, and then a train from Edinburgh to London, a train from London to Paris, a train from Paris to Italy, and then eventually to the race, staying in a small hostel, living very humbly for a couple of days, and then racing. And you've got to try and sort out the drinks and the cyclist and understand what's going on. He talked about the first couple of years that they would start, for instance, at a certain time, maybe 3 o'clock, and then the elites would go off at 3:15 or the other way around. And he talked about the kind of the fun and games around that and the rivalries, and kind of Don is a very kind of focused guy who wants to get the very best out of his body. Ran great marathons, great ultramarathons, but absolutely dominated in 100K and won the Passatore a couple of times. And he was the last person to win Passatore before I won it last year in 2022, because in 2023, unfortunately, they had the floods, and that wiped out created a lot of problems in Faenza and the province. They weren't able to hold it last year, which is a little crazy considering it's the end of May and it's usually a very, very hot time. But yeah, that's where I found out about it. And then I just wanted to follow in Don's footsteps and go and experience what he'd written about, because I was so, it was so magical what he'd written. And, the race starts in Florence, in Piazza del Duomo, and finishes in Piazza Popolo in Faenza. 2 of the most beautiful places you can possibly think of, and 2 of the most beautiful places I've ever been to in Italy. And, obviously there's a lot of history and culture and architecture in Rome, but for me, Florence has it beat. And Faenza, if I moved anywhere tomorrow, Faenza would be the place that I would live. Great thing about Italians is their religion is sport. I know they're very religious people, but their religion is sport. I grew up on Italia 1990. For me, like Pavarotti singing that song still gives me chills today, because I remember my dad forced me to take the time off school and watch the World Cup in Italy, and you got to see the passion, and you got to see the passion of the Italians and the Italian crowds, and that's the same in football. It's the same in cycling. Obviously, Pantani was one of my heroes, and it's the same in running. And when you get to feel that, whether you're running 24 hours for 100K or whether you're right at the front, you get to feel that Italians are passionate about sport, not just about winners, but about people that are pushing themselves and trying to improve themselves. They absolutely love that. And so to feel that welcomed, not just by the fans, but the fans make the race along with the beautiful course. From all the way from Florence to Faenza, it's like being in a postcard. But Gianni, who helped translate when I first got there, Tatiana, Piri, Tatiana is now the race director of the race. Piri made me feel incredibly welcome and talked about Don and this when I first went there in 2018 and got it wrong. And then when I went back in 2022 and won the race, this was my tactic. And so hopefully if you're running Passatore this year, good luck. And you're in for the most magical experience. And a lot of you, I know, are returners, and you do it all the time, and it's just a passage. But my plan was very simple. My plan was to don't get carried away like I did in 2018. Don't go off the front. because you're literally become the hunted. And so I wanted to keep the first 40K, it's essentially 40K slightly undulating, but mainly flat, and then 10K up, 10K down, which is, you know, a killer on the quads. That 10K is easy up compared to the 10K down, and then 40K flat into Faenza. And so if you're off the front, like I was in 2018, you just feel like you're being hunted, and you don't know where the second place is, third place, if there are any groups behind, you don't know where you are. My plan going into 2022, when I won it, was just stay easy for 40K, attack on the hill, go hard, because I'm good at going uphill, I'm not good at coming downhill, and then just try to survive into Faenza. And that was my plan. And that was, if I could run with Giorgio Calcaterra, that would be the cherry on the top. And I got to run with Giorgio. I got to run with Giorgio in the World Championships as well in 2018. And Giorgio is, first of all, he's the #1 in Italy. Maybe Italian politics, if Giorgio and Roberto Benigni could run the country, I think it would be doing really well. But Giorgio is the #1 100K runner who's ever lived. There is nobody better than Giorgio. When it comes to number of world championships, when it comes to number of Passatores, number of great races he's won, and his humility and humor, what a guy. And I wish, when I've spoken to him in tiny bits of Italian and English, I wish it makes me want to be able to learn Italian. Makes me able to want to speak Italian. And so that was my plan. And then all of a sudden we set off. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's packed because it's Saturday. The night before I'd stayed in Fiesole, which is 7K into the race at the start of the first climb. And I knew it was going to be hot. I wanted to be out of the way because I didn't want any of the kind of palaver that is before the race. I wanted to be calm. I got into Piazza del Duomo. It's packed, it's full of tourists, it's full of the racers, there's 4,000 runners there. The anxiety, the nervousness, everything you get with the race, coupled with it's nearly 35 degrees and everyone's searching for shade. There's not enough shadow to go around for everyone. And people are searching for cold water, just this nervous energy, etc. And then you've just got to remain calm. And then we set off. For me, it was easy. You know, the heart rate was low, I was feeling good. Got to the first climb. Naturally, I started to pass people because that's a strength. And then, you know, you're kind of moving up and you think, yeah, I don't want to get too far. You know, I still want to be able to see the leader because I don't want to get him to get too far away. It's very difficult to communicate. I had Marco as my assistant cyclist, which is a massive help, and Marco's a great guy. But you don't want first place to get too far away. Even if you're sticking to your game plan, you know that you need to achieve a certain time in order to win the race. No matter how you're feeling or no matter how your game plan changes, to win the race, you know you need to run a certain time. And for me, I wanted to run, even if I was going to win it, I didn't want to win it in a bad time. I still wanted to win it in an honest time. But very quickly, I was passing people, and then Giorgio and a group came, and I kind of followed them down a downhill and thought, okay, this is a nice place to be. And then we hit another uphill and I just kind of went off the front. There was no intention there. The heart rate was still the same. But again, if uphill running is your strength, you're going to favor that along with conditioning the quads for the downhill. It's going to go well for you at Passatore. Exactly the same in comrades, up run or down run. If you can run uphill really well and you practice that, you're going to do well. And then all of a sudden I'm passing third place and then second place looks like he's in trouble. I passed first place and he started to walk, and then I'm in front and all of a sudden everyone's behind me, 4,000 runners. The camera is literally, motorbike camera just there. There's the director sportif behind me, and he's telling me all sorts of stuff, and I got over passionate at one stage and maybe I swore and wasn't so sportsmanlike for a few minutes, but I apologized afterwards. And yeah, it's just kind of when everything's online and you feel like you want to win the biggest race in the world, and then you feel like this is going to derail you, or what they're putting rules in that you don't think the guys behind are following, you start to get a bit over emotional, and so I still apologize for that. But I got to the start of the climb at 40K, And I just thought the game plan still exists. People are going to catch you on the downhill. So I hit that hard and I went for it. And but I was still in control. And then I got to the top of the col. The crowds were immense there because all of a sudden it's kind of like, it's like when you've seen the Giro d'Italia, which is happening right now. If you're watching a Giro, then it's like those mountain pass things. The fans are just immense and they're giving you loads of energy. The hairs on the back of your neck are standing up. And you cannot not love that situation. You cannot love the fact that, you know, at one point somebody said, vai, 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 die. And I was like, oh, great, fantastic. And this was happening a lot. And then I heard this woman say, and she's from a small village, right, along the path. And then she said to the director sportif, he is Italian, right? And I heard the guy say no. And then she was like, oh. So they want to support you, but they want an Italian winner. Of course they do. And for me, that gave me a lot of energy because I thought, yeah, this is what sport is all about. We kill each other out here. And our rivals become our best friends because the level of respect you have for your rival who matches you toe for toe over the course of a marathon or 100 kilometers, you cannot not understand what he has been through in order to not just get to the finish line, but to get to the start line, to the 10, 15, 20 years that he's done before in order to put himself in that physical condition and mental condition in order to make that work. And so you cannot not love that. And then I hit the downhill and I was like, right, come on, quads, just get me to the bottom and in a reasonable shape. Don't overdo it, don't push it. You can kind of easily fly down there and it gets wrong because if your quads are done, you're done. It's as simple as that. Every single step will be pain or at least soreness and suffering. I got to the bottom and it was like 35 to 38K to go and I thought, right, okay, hit it. And I was feeling good. And it was just about holding 4 minutes, 10 per kilometer. And just about holding that and running a respectable time. And all of a sudden it gets dark. You're running in the dark for the last sort of 1.5 hours, I would say. There was a point when the train went past and there's like craziness there. Should I go? Should I stay? And then I for the last even 10, there's no way I thought I was winning the race. When I was running scared for that last 40K, I was running, when it started to hurt, and by hurt there was no pain, but there was a lot of soreness in my calves were rock solid. And I was just waiting for one of my Achilles to pop, just to break, tear my Achilles, and that would have been the end of my day. So my best case scenario, even though I was out in front, I wasn't getting any feedback on where second place was and where third place was and whether there were any groups behind. I was just trying to survive for 40K. And so essentially for 3 hours or 2 hours 45, whatever it was, I was just trying to get to the finish. And with 10K to go, I was so tight in my calves and my Achilles, I could feel it. I had to stop and stretch in the race 4 or 5 times. There's probably pictures of that. And all of us, at 10K to go, I just thought, if I can just get on the podium here, I will be so happy. And then I get to 3K to go, and then it's like, it's welcome to Faenza, and 2K to go. And then the crowds build up, and it's just wall of noise. And at that point, you cannot not finish. Because there's so many... There's so much like beauty in that. Other people from a different country cheering you on. Just a very special experience. I'm sorry about that. I get incredibly passionate when I speak about sport, but the feeling of coming into Faenza and just wall walls of noise hitting you, and they're all supporting you. They really wanted an Italian winner, but they're supporting you because they know what you've been through. There's that knowledge in Italy of endurance sports, cycling and running. They know what you've been through, and they know that to get to where you've got to get to the finish line, you've had to suffer. And there's a lot of parallels to life there, and enduring what we have to go through, whether it's, you know, what Italians have been through, what, you know, Europeans have been through, or what kind of the world is going through right now, and what we've had to go through in the not too distant future. And that's why I will always say that running is the perfect metaphor for life. And to cross that finish line, you can even see, if I can try to find the video, I will find it, but I crossed the finish line. It's just sheer disbelief on my face, because I couldn't believe, I couldn't believe it had happened. And so it was absolutely a dream come true. So if you're running this year, so if you're doing Passatore this year, I'm so jealous of you, because you get to do something so beautiful, and just enjoy it. Like, don't go out too fast. I've already made that mistake. Just keep within yourself, keep in control. Understand that there's going to be periods of the race, like the uphill, where you've got to dig in and you've got to make it happen. Try not to walk if you can. Try to sort of like go slowly up that col, and try not to push too hard on the downhill. Make sure your quads are ready to go with 40K to go when you hit that 60K point. And just dig in when it gets tough. Dig in when it gets tough. Make sure your nutrition is dialed in. You've still got another 3-4 weeks to go before. So you've got time to train on your interval sessions and your long run. You've got time to get your stomach prepared for that level of carbohydrate that you need to be putting in so that you don't get soreness. And just go for it. We're lucky to be able to do that.